Hi, this is Wendy with Nashville Restoration, and today we're going to do a fake chalk paint on a dresser. This is a dresser from a thrift store, and I took the hardware off just because I haven't decided what I want to do with it yet, if I want to paint it or replace it. So in order to do the fake chalk paint look, you have to sand the shiny finish off your project. That does not mean you have to sand it down to the wood, but it does mean you have to just knock the shine off of it. I'm going to show you with an electric sander how quick that actually is. This is a 4-inch orbital sander. You can use a palm sander. You can also just hand sand it if you want to, but this is how much you need to sand off. For supplies, you will need some baby oil, a quart of satin or eggshell finish paint, a kitchen sponge with a scrubby side, 120 grit sandpaper, and a sander, either a hand sander or an electric sander, and a rag. I'm using 120 grit sandpaper. If you use between 120 and 180, whether you're hand sanding or electric sanding, that is a good range to be in. But this is how quick you can actually take the shine off. I finished sanding the rest of the dresser off camera, and now we're going to apply the paint. This is a satin finish paint, and I'm going to apply it in the same way you apply chalk paint, which is to apply it in every direction. So your goal is to get the paint on there with no drips or puddles, and that is pretty much the only rule. You want to get it to cover without putting it on too thick. This is going to be 2 coats on this dresser, as it is with most pieces of furniture when you repaint them. Take out the drawers of the dresser and paint the front of the dresser. Do it in the same way as you did the top. You just want to avoid any drips or puddles. I'm going to do a little bit of wet distressing on this dresser. That just means the same spots that you would sand to distress, I'm going to run a damp rag over now just to save some time later, and because I hate sandpaper. Paint your drawer just like you did the top of the dresser in every direction, and paint the top edge of the drawer that you will see when you open it. I'm going to use a kitchen sponge to do a little bit of the wet distressing. It's a sponge on one side and a scrubby surface on the other. Same way you would use sandpaper, you can just take this and run it over your project and make it easier later. I'm going to do the same thing on the drawer. One of the other advantages of doing this to me is that you can see more so what's going to happen with the sandpaper when this is already done. I'm just going to come back and just hit the very edge with sandpaper after this. Since we're outside, I'm going to give it 2 hours to dry. If I was inside, I would wait 4 hours or more. More drying time is always good. This is my second coat of paint going on. I am going to actually not paint close to the edges where I already like the little bit of the distressing that I did with the sponge and the rag. I'm not even going to put paint over that again, except when I do this, which is basically there's hardly any paint left in my brush, and I'm just going to run it over the edge lightly, and it gives it kind of a whitewash look, and it makes it just look more weathered and distressed. I'm going to do the same thing on the front of the dresser. I am only going to put paint basically right down the middle of these rails and sides because I like the way the distressing looks, and I'm going to leave it like that. Same thing on the drawer. I'm just going to paint in the middle and not paint on the edges, except a little bit when the brush is almost out of paint. I'll go over the edges a little bit. Now that I've completed all the painting on the dresser, I'm going to give it 6 hours to dry, and that is an outside drying time. If I were inside, I would give it 8 hours or more, and if I could go overnight, I would do that because the longer you can let the paint set up and dry, the better results you will have. So before you sand or go on to any further steps after your 2 coats of paint, just let it sit and cure for a while, and then come back for your next step. Now I've got 2 coats of paint on the entire dresser. So I'm taking some sandpaper and I'm just going to distress a little bit where I want to see some wood come through. So I'm kind of just hitting the very outside edges of the drawers and everywhere on the dresser that there's an edge that would naturally be distressed. I sanded all the edges on the dresser, so now I'm going to sand every other part of the dresser that I painted. So every surface, the sides, the drawers, and the top, you're going to want to sand lightly until you see some depth in the paint and it starts to look aged and weathered. This is one of the things that makes chalk paint look like chalk paint. The last step for the fake chalk paint look is to put on a fake clear wax. We're going to use baby oil because it's made of mineral oil, which is the main ingredient in a lot of commercial clear wax or soft wax products. If you're using white paint, try to use a white rag because some of the fabric will inevitably get hung up in the paint and you will be picking out little fibers later if you don't match up your rag to your paint. You literally only put a few drops of baby oil on your rag like this, and you can see as you put it on where it covers, you really don't need to put on a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and do the entire dresser just like this and then come back for the next step. I should have left the hardware on in the beginning, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. But if your hardware was on, you would just paint it along with the rest of the dresser like this. The last step on this dresser is just to wipe it all down, get the baby oil, any excess you want to get wiped off of there, and it will give it a smooth and waxed finish like this. I'm using a cotton t-shirt to do this with, and it works great. It smooths all the wax out, absorbs anything extra, and it just gives it a nice matte chalk-like finish that is perfect for a fake chalk paint dresser. This is the final result for the fake chalk paint dresser. I have chalk painted a lot of furniture and I cannot tell a difference with this whatsoever. It totally looks like chalk paint to me. So there we go. There's the fake chalk paint dresser. Please check out my other videos. I have a lot on chalk paint and furniture restoration. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.